Hey guys, welcome back to Dad's Van. Today I'm going to be starting the bolt through installation of the Scopema RIB Altair folding seat bed in the van. And before we drill any holes, we're going to be doing some investigation about exactly where to put the seat and looking underneath at where those holes are going to be so we can plan and make sure that we get this done right and safely. Just a disclaimer here, this is just how I'm doing it. It's not guaranteed, it's not pull tested. I believe that it's okay, but you should definitely consult a professional before making any decisions about how to install a seat like this in your van, just for the safety of yourselves and your family. All right, so we got things set up here in the van, mocked up so that I can get a feel for what positions the seat can be placed in and how that'll feel with the galley kitchen that I'm planning to build here by the sliding door. One thing I'd really recommend doing is creating a cardboard template that has the outline of the seat frame with where the holes, the mounting holes are located. There's two on each side, one up front, one towards the back. Also, by having this piece of cardboard, it allows you to put the seat in the van and kind of move it around different positions without scraping up the nice painted surface of the van floor and also the painted surface on the seat frame. All right, one of the first considerations in placement of this seat is going to be how close to the wall it can go. I definitely want to maximize the space between the galley kitchen and the seat. And the way I have it right now is a little bit too tight. I've found that standing in this area, trying to face where the sink and burner are going to be, causes me to rub up against the seat all the time, which over time is not going to be good for the leather on the seat. Also, this entryway here, it's a little bit tight. I mean, I'm pretty thin and I can't crawl into that bed without turning sideways. So not an ideal spacing the way I have it set up right now. All right, for this first seat position, you can see there's plenty of clearance between the seat and the wall. I actually had a subwoofer here that stuck out about 3/4 of an inch, and so with the seat in this position that would be fine, and also would have clearance for the belt, which is one of the things you got to watch out for, because as you convert this into a bed, you see that seat belt has to go down along the side. So if that's running into the wall, you're going to be, could get stuck, or if it gets down low, it could be hard to pull back up, and maybe you don't want it rubbing on the wall all the time. So having some space there is necessary. Question is how much. So this would definitely be the maximum. In this configuration, I could keep the subwoofer here. The downside is the further away from that wall we are, the less space we're giving ourselves over here. All right, so we've looked at the first van seat position, which gives us a nice amount of clearance from the wall, but it cuts into our galley space, in my opinion, too tight. So I'm going to be looking at bringing this seat closer to the wall, but I'm a little concerned about where that's going to line up the through bolting. So let's take a look at that. All right, when considering where to put this seat, in my case, I'm planning on keeping this pillar cover. So I had it off before, which didn't give me a realistic idea of where this seat might interfere. So I've put the cover back on so we can see where we need to place it to clear that. Okay, a couple of things. First, we want to make sure when this unfolds, it does not run into this pillar. And in my case, I also want to make sure it doesn't rub against it, because this pleather I don't think it's the most robust, so I just don't want anything rubbing on there over time. So the first thing in placing this seat, make sure that we come up along this edge here, but we don't contact it. I'll just show you here as this comes down, we've got clearance. So just clears this, no contact. Okay, next thing is we want no contact along the wall. Again, because we don't want this leather to be rubbing on that. In my case, I had a subwoofer here. It had to go, it's gonna go behind the seat in a box that I'm gonna build. Not a big deal, but I did have to purchase a new wall panel, 150 bucks, and I'll have to recut it for this other speaker. Speaking of the other speaker, that reminded me to throw the cover on and just make absolutely sure we're gonna clear that. And we do, so we're good there. All right, I talked about it earlier, but I have this platform bed, fits a full-size bed, and I don't want pop-outs on the side of my Sprinter, so I really wanted that full-size bed to fit the length of the van. But what that means is that that platform supporting it's going to come out past here. Now originally I thought, oh, this seat's going to clear it, but what I wasn't paying attention to is in order to clear that, the seat had to be closer to my galley so that it would, so it could come forward enough and not run into the pillar cover. But what that left me with is not a lot of room between the galley and the seat. So I want to maximize that room between the galley and the seat. I want at least 12, preferably 13 inches in there. So the bad news is I am going to have to build sort of the last 6 or 8 inches of this that folds up so I can get this seat bed down. I also moved this support back a little bit, but I have a plan for it, using some support on the edge at where the galley framing is going to be, and another little support here off of the L-track. I can support that folding section, and that'll be on like a piano hinge. And so anyway, for the seat placement, I just need to make sure it'll clear this member here. And so that's what we're going to look at next. All right, first thing we got to do is slide this puppy forward. Okay, so let's check the clearance. Now in my case, in order to clear that pillar without any contact and clear this beam, it's going to be very close. I would say we got about 2 or 3 millimeters there clearance, but that's all we need. No contact, and we're good to go. Okay, well, I want to talk about one more thing that I was concerned about, and that's this seat belt. So this belt, the width of the belt strap is fine between the seat and the wall here, but when you pull this forward, you'll notice that gets pulled down, and that's where you can run into trouble because this guy wants to pull and go underneath. Now I have that cutout, so it's going to be happy to go right into there. But as you keep going, you see that guy wants to pull down, and that's going to probably cause some pushing up against this panel. But there is a lot of give in this panel, so I'm not too worried. The other thing, and I'll have to show you on this side, is these seats come with this little elastic strap that kind of keeps this buckle up so it doesn't drop down to the ground. I believe that on the other side, this strap is actually what is not allowing the belt to just move and stay on top of the seat. Instead, it's restricting it and therefore pulling, keeping it kind of in place and limiting its movement. So that's why when I slide forward, it's ultimately causing this to go down. So I might be removing that to free it up. But just something to keep in mind, this side, you know, being close to the wall, there is going to be a little bit of trickiness to get that to work, but I think it's going to be okay. All right, so we've got the seat positioned and it's still on the cardboard template. I checked the drawings for the seat. It's really important. My model is the B fixation frame, and there are 494 millimeters between the holes. It says the holes are 12 millimeter. I tried to fit an 11.9 millimeter bit through there and it did not go, so I think the tolerance on those holes isn't great. So I'm gonna go ahead and use a 7/16, which fits through there nicely, only with a little bit of wiggle room. So that's the plan there. Okay, the other thing I did, just to make sure that I had this lined up evenly, is just get a drywall square, put that up against the wall, and that just helps me confirm that I've got this thing straight. All right, I've checked both sides with the T-square, making sure this thing is lined up straight. And I've marked on the floor here where the front of the seat is. So we're gonna go ahead and move the seat now and get drilling. All right, we're ready to drill the first holes. So this is the mark I made on the floor right here. And you can see there's a rib bump that is up here, and I'm going to be immediately to the left of that, facing the front of the van. Now, the drawings for this seat show that the center of that hole is going to be 100 millimeters back from this marking. I'm going to go ahead and measure that out and make another mark. Okay, similarly on the other side, I've got a mark on the floor here. We're going to go 100 millimeters back from that. Now, in this area, like I was talking about earlier, this is the depression here where the factory seat mounts go. And then it goes up a little, and then it goes up again to this raised rib. Now under the van, only about half of this raised rib is accessible. So we want our hole to be sort of towards the edge of this, because there's another just support beam that runs along here. It's not a structural one, it's just something that holds the fuel tank up. But we don't want to drill through that, so we're going to aim to get the hole for this right on this spot here, and that should be, trace it out. So we're going to be using 7/16. 7/16. Go ahead and check that. That will all fall. It's handy if you have one of these, you can trace out the holes. So then that hole will fall on this raised rib here towards the right side facing the front of the van, and not on this angle here. That would be bad. So okay, we're all set to drill. First thing we're going to do is with a small bit, just drill a little exploratory hole. Actually, first we're going to do a little punch to make sure our drill sets. Leave that drill bit in so I can see it. All right, this is why these exploratory drillings are so important. So there's a drill bit coming through the floor, and you can see this little cross member here that just holds up the fuel tank. We're really close to that. So that tells me that we want to bring that a little bit further this way so we don't hit this piece of metal there. We want to be right in that sweet spot. All right, second attempt. Now I can see there's going to be enough room there for our 7/16 drill hole. All right, now before we drill any of the holes completely, I want to go ahead and do an exploratory drill on the back just to make sure that's not ending up anywhere unexpected. And we know from our drawings that that's 494. Okay, there's our back right exploratory drill. That one looks good. We'll have to watch out for the brake cable when tying down that bolt, but I think we'll be all right. All right, here's the back left exploratory hole. That looks okay. Plenty of clearance there. All right, here's the right or the left front. Came through just in front of this welded piece here. So I'm probably going to just shift this a tad so we clear this thing. Although I'm not worried about this member here. It's not, it's kind of just tying, it's a cross member. I just don't want to muck around with this. So I'm going to come just a smidge forward so we clear that with our bolts. All right, it's time to get drilling with the bigger size holes. I'm going to go ahead and use a step bit. Just because this 7/16 is huge and I really want to make sure that we work our way in just right. Can use this magnetic tray to pick up all the filings. All right, for the center hole, I measured from the front left to the center hole, and that's 365 millimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and use a tape measure to line up the two holes I've drilled in the front. Again, if you want, you can use a T-square to make sure these holes all line up. Center to center with the marking, which they do. All right, in order to cut through flat bar steel, we're going to need something more than a general purpose blade. I have a miter saw with a 10-inch blade, and you can get steel cutting blades for that. But for what I'm doing, circular saw will also work, so I'm going to swap out this general purpose blade for this Diablo steel demon blade so we can cut through those steel flat bar pieces. All right, we're ready to go. If you have a speed square, that'll make drawing lines for your cuts super easy. Highly recommend getting a speed square. It's a good investment. All right, so I'm done cutting the pieces for the underside bolt through mounting. Got 4 1/4-inch 3x3 pieces and 1 3x5. This is going to be for the center mounting. Now we need, because these were cut, they're going to be a little bit sharp, so with some emery cloth you can just deburr them. All right, so we've got all our 1/4-inch steel plates cut, and I went under the van with a tape measure and the steel plate to make sure they were all going to fit as I expected. And then in the process of doing that, I marked off on the plate where I need to cut the hole. And here I've got a a homemade setup for securing the plate while I drill it. And I've got my step bit in, which is really nice for cutting through metal in a controlled way. This would be a lot easier with a drill press, but I don't own a drill press. I have borrowed one before, but it's a pretty big investment, so haven't done that yet. So for now, we're just gonna get by. But first we want to tap where we're going to be drilling. And start drilling these holes out. All right, so the seat has one front center mounting bolt, and that actually lines up here, which is not far from the factory bolt. So I chose to just build my own 1/4 inch framing piece that lines up with where the factory M12 1.5 pitch threaded mount point is.